Let me share with you the best way I think that testimonies can be written, specifically when you're looking at using them as a marketing tool or a marketing asset. Okay. This is what I call the definitive testimony framework. This helps tell your stories in your church more consistently. Okay. Consistency builds trust. And if I can see a before, then God, and an after across multiple lives, I can see then that maybe there's a process that this church goes through or a process that God goes through, and I can easily plug into that. But if I see multiple different stories, one is 2 lines, one is 10 lines, there's not a lot of consistency there. And so I'm like, okay, this is working well for these people. I'm not sure if it's going to work well for me. So you want to have consistency throughout your stories. I'm not saying rewrite your testimonies, but if you're going to have the opportunity to give someone some time to write their testimony, to submit it to you, or if you're putting together a video, I like this 3-part storytelling framework in the context of telling your testimony. And that's in 3-part, okay? Number 1, I was. Number 2, but God. Number 3, now I. Okay. Breaking that down. Number 1, I was. Share what they were before. Okay. Right. We have this in Amazing Grace. I once was lost. Okay. What does that look like? In the story I shared earlier on the show, if you're watching the video clip, I'll share that story again. A man was an alcoholic and was about to lose his family, right? Kicked out of the house, couldn't kick the habit, I guess, so to speak. I don't know if you talk about that way with alcoholism, but he was an alcoholic. He started going to AA, right? He was kicked out of his house. He had to do something because he loved his family. He was just also addicted, started going to AA, right? So that's the I was. I was addicted to alcohol and I was ruining my family. Okay. Me personally, I was born and raised into the church and I thought I had everything together. Okay. I was. That's part 1. Part 2 is but God. This is what makes testimony so different from typical stories. Okay. But there's always a but. If there's not a but, it's not a good story, right? But the fairy godmother waved her wand, but Luke's parents were killed by stormtroopers, but Obi-Wan offered to train Luke, right? But Obi-Wan was killed. The but is always a good storytelling framework. So don't just say, and then God, right? But God. I was lost, but God showed his amazing grace. Okay. This gentleman was addicted to alcohol, but God became his higher power that helped him overcome his addiction in the context of AA community, right? I was born and raised in the church. I thought I knew everything, but God showed me through the actions of others that I am as much in need of his saving grace as anyone else that I thought I was better than. Right? So, but God is a huge turning point. And that also showcases, it could also be, but the church, right? But the church came across and helped me with this problem. But the church said this, but pastor said this. I like that. That's fine. I just like, but God, right? But God had other plans. I know there's even a sermon series out there called But God. Okay. Great title, by the way, if you're going to do a sermon series on sharing your testimony. The 3rd part is now I, right? This is where the transformation comes in. It's very hard to sell a workout It's kind of like selling a workout program. It's very hard to sell a workout program if you don't show the after picture. Okay. And I'm not saying this in the context of like we're selling Jesus, but we are showcasing God's transformation, transformative power, transformative grace, whatever you want to call that. So if you just say, hey, if you're addicted to alcohol, God can help you. What does that look like? Well, if you want to play incredibly stupid, but God can help you, what? He's going to pay my bar tab? What does that look like? So you have to show an after picture or a transformation. Now okay? The gentleman went to AA. God became his higher power and rescued him from addiction. Now he's back running his family instead of ruining it. And he's been sober for 7 years. Okay. I was born and raised in the church. I thought I had everything together, but God showed me that I need his saving grace just as much as anyone else that I thought I was better than. Now I am truly saved, truly born again, truly living on mission, and now I'm raising my kids with a knowledge of Jesus that even I didn't have growing up in Sunday school. And now I get to share this message with others. So there is, even in my small group story, right? I was 300 miles away from home and my wife had the flu. But God, through our small group, or you could even say, but our small group, came to the rescue and took care of our daughter, cleaned, fed, dressed, and took her to school. Now I got to work, didn't lose my job, and my wife got to rest and recover. And now, I guess you could say now I have a group of people that I can constantly rely on if I need something, or if we need some kind of support and rescue to help us answer questions, to help us when life gets hard. Our group is there, right? This works because it is transformative. There is a before and after. The solution is there, God, okay? So people can see themselves in the now, and they can see themselves in the after, okay? So if someone who has an addiction, maybe it's drugs, alcohol, porn, food, right? Gluttony, lust, whatever it is. If they have an addiction, they can see that someone else who has an addiction got past it with God. And now they live a new kind of life, the kind of life that I desire as someone with an addiction. So I can see myself in them now, and I could also see what potential God has for me if I take that next step with the church. So that's my favorite. I call it the definitive testimony framework. Okay. I was, but God, now I. Give your people some hope in their testimonies. When you share testimonies, people should be able to say, not only that's a nice story, they should also say, I want that too. What do I need to do to have a similar story?